My name is Jeff Weninger. I am running for state treasurer. I'm a current state representative. I'm originally from Wichita, Kansas. I moved here in 1993 to open up restaurants. I was a young man at that point and started working in restaurants at 14 because I was a poor kid trying to keep up with a lot of rich friends, and I had to work. Got here, got right to work. We opened a place called Dewey's Deli in 1993. It's still there today after 29 years. And then in 1996, we opened up a place called Floridino's Pizza and Pasta. It's in Chandler. So between the two restaurants, we have anywhere from 90 to 100 employees at any given time. We did not lay off anybody during the pandemic, kept all of our incredible employees employed. Was frustrated with some things with the Chandler City Council, mainly financial things that were going on. So I ran for office in 2006 when my businesses were doing really well. And was lucky, by the grace of God, got elected and kind of got to work on some of these financial issues. One being, we hit the recession, and I found and discovered when I really got into the books that a lot of these executives that work for us got car allowances. But not only did they get car allowances, this compounded into their retirement. So essentially, our citizens Chandler were giving a car allowance to these people for the rest of their lives because it became part of the retirement. So I worked and got rid of that. I say I wasn't real popular after that. That's all right. I ran for the legislature after that. I've been there 8 years. For 6 years, I've been the chairman of the Commerce Committee. This deals with all banking issues. It deals with all business issues. It deals with insurance issues. And so I've kind of been the gatekeeper of what comes through there. And really have worked on a lot of regulatory issues because when you have a small business or a large business, government gets in the way a lot. Bureaucrats who've been there. There's a swamp in cities. There's a swamp. It's not just in DC. There's a swamp at every level of these bureaucracies. And so we worked at chipping away with that. A couple bills that came to my committee this year that I think is important because there's a nexus to the Treasurer's Office. Let me ask real quick though, has anybody ever heard of the phrase ESG, Environmental Social Governance?
Oh yeah.
Few people, good. Glenn Beck wrote a book on it called The Great Reset. And to me, that's what these bills dealt with. And it's a new way that they're trying things. It's not always that the bureaucracy is getting you or, the numbskulls in DC or anything. This is how they get things done without actually legislating it. Think of CRT. They didn't have a vote to put CRT in. It came in under the radar like a Trojan horse. This is CRT for the financial world. So when I was getting signatures this year, I went to gun shows. Went to the Shola one a couple weeks ago, bought a gun, and I went to the Maricopa County Gun Show. In fact, I think me and Mick were there together. Got a lot of signatures there. Gun show for a Republican is a good place to go, for sure. Little pro tip there. But one thing that they kept telling all of us is that banks won't deal with them. They literally give them their money back. Says, no, you're not banking with us anymore. They won't process their credit cards. So when I bought a gun a couple weeks ago at the Sholo Gun Show, they ran it through, they charged me like 70% because they can't get any banks to do it. So they had to go down and further downstream and get somebody who had to charge a lot higher percentage. So Frank Carroll had a bill this year, second year in a row he's ran it, that says if a bank discriminates against a Second Amendment business, then they are not allowed to do any state contracts.
Makes sense.
So we got that out of the House and over to the Senate where it stalled and died. And then Jay Kaufman, who's a conservative Republican from the Gilbert area, had another bill that dealt with ESG scores. These things I was talking about, ESG, they have these social credit scores. Companies have them, and actually some of us have them, and then pretty soon we're all going to have them.
China has them.
Yeah, it literally is something out of China.
It's China.
And basically, if that's why these companies are being starved of capital. It's why they're not investing in oil and gas companies, because their ESG score will go down. Then they won't get invited to be in these large funds.
Right.
So they're starving these companies of capital. They're doing the same thing to gun manufacturers. So we had a bill to get rid of those, says you can't use those to discriminate against people. Again, we got it out of committee and then it died because we had some weak-kneed Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
So next is to the Treasurer's Office. I am running for state treasurer. Treasurer's Office is a very important office that a lot of people sometimes don't pay attention to. They just, we figure everything's going good. And a Democrat hasn't had this office in over 45 years. And it's pretty safe to say that they're not going to again. So this race is really in the primary. So the number one job for the treasurer is to protect your money, is to safeguard your money. Invest it, but to safeguard it. But this is where these ESG things come in. So the current treasurer, and it is who I'm running against, was alluded to, Kimberly Yee, was running for governor, wasn't working out real well. So in January, she got back into this race. So I kept on hearing she's never there. Because if we're going to fight these things like I'm talking about in the second minute, it takes somebody who's active. This is an executive role. This isn't a city council position where sometimes, they're once or twice a week. This is an executive akin to the Secretary of State, to the Attorney General. We pulled the records because everybody kept saying she's never there. So we knew she wouldn't give it to us. So we records requested the bad swipes because Arizona Department of Administration controls all the buildings. So this is where we get our audience participation, I guess. So how many times in 6 months between November and April do you think the current treasurer safeguarding your money was in the office?
How about 0?
6 times. So, yeah. Yes.
Who's going to run your restaurants?
I have a great management team. I will be present at the treasurer's office. I will still work in my Italian restaurant, Flordino's, at night. I like being accountable. I like being where people can come in and ask me questions and find me. I'm not...
You're engaged.
Right. And I've always been that way when I was a Chandler City Council member. You can always find me. So I will be present and working every day at the treasurer's office. Yes.
Are you pro-life?
Yes, I am pro-life. Absolutely. 100%. And that was a crazy day the other day. I mean, I went to do the debate in Scottsdale. There was no one out on the Capitol Mall. I came back. There's 7,000 to 10,000 people out there. We're finishing up with this big water bill to help rejuvenate, keep water safe here in the state. And then they just started pounding on the doors, trying to come in. And, I like to try to have some lightheartedness sometimes. I was like, man, they're really pissed off about this water bill, aren't they?
PSPRS has been really, killing us. And what are your views on that? And I know that, who was it that was pushing to have, the treasurer take over the management of the fund? And,
Yeah, somebody was years ago.
But anyway, what's
I think they need to look at it a little bit more because they tried playing catch up. It is separate from the treasurer's office. Somebody else does it. But they have been the one that struggled the most. ASRS was a little behind that, but yeah, they struggled, and that's going to be a legislative decision if they want to change the makeup and how they do certain things. And I'm a big supporter of the police and things, but there has been issues there, and sometimes it's tough breaking through that political wall with the people who represent.
What would you do differently to manage the state's money on a year by year, month by month? Just manage the state's money. What would you do differently?
I don't know if I would do a whole lot differently. I would be very careful, but the one thing I would do differently is I would, make sure we're not, in all my signs you'll see outside, it says no woke investments. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't invest in a company that I think leans to the left. But it does mean that I'm not going to invest in a company and enable them taking away our rights.
Right.
One thing I did mention is that Bank of America, which is the most anti-Second Amendment bank there is, okay, they will not do any business with any gun. In fact, one of Michael Enfazon, who's a lobbyist for the gun companies, they canceled his account just because he was a lobbyist with Bank of America. But the current treasurer has renewed the service contract with Bank of America, giving them over $1 billion basically to be our checkbook at any given time. Why are we enabling a company that is going to further take away our Second Amendment rights?
Right.
So
I mean, in the Arizona Constitution, it flat out says that the purpose of government is to protect your rights. I think you're not doing that, not upholding that, if you're enabling somebody through contracts that want to take away our rights.